Good morning. Can I make you a bit uncomfortable? Can you raise your hand if you know that Mojaloop v17 has been released or saw some notification around that? Wait. There was no element of surprise left after Paul and Simeon's comments and updates. So maybe a more difficult question. How many of you are not paying attention? That'll be difficult to answer, because if you were, I think by now we should know that Mojaloop version 17 has been released. Thanks to everyone who worked on that, but also worked on advocacy for that. So today I want to take you on a brief journey about Mojaloop v17, how we ended up here. Not too long, but a brief one, and then look at the features, do a quick demo of the three major features there. We'll look at the release process a bit, and then time permitting, go into the details on the quality measures we have and what we did for Mojaloop, and then looking forward into the future. So Mojaloop, where we are now, okay, you can see the slide here. So there was work done here by the Gates Foundation before June 2016, but the level 1 project kickoff happened in June of 2016. And then Mojaloop branding was announced at Cybos in October 2017. So the level 1 project reference implementation became Mojaloop. And the API that we have now, what we call Mojaloop API, but technically the FSP interoperability API, was launched in February of 2018 after some industry partners, 4 of them came together, developed it, validated it, deployed on their own systems, and ensured that they're all interoperable. And version 3.5.1 of Mojaloop was the first production quality release, which was released in September of 2018. And then after that, we had version 10.4.0, where Mojaloop API version 1.1 was supported. You can see that the version numbers of Mojaloop API doesn't change much. So it was 1.0 initially, and then 1.1. And after 10.4.0 through to version 16, a lot of features were added, like the bulk support, continuous gross settlement features, PISP or 3 PPI support, request to pay, and major changes. And along with it, I'm not listing out the maintenance charge changes because they're not that interesting, but version 16 had a major focus on performance. And this included things like batching, release automation, logging. And after that, you can now see that where we are now with March 2025 on version 17 of Mojaloop. Now we have support for version 2.0 of the Mojaloop API, or the FSP interoperability API. This also includes FX and interscheme support, ISO 20022 messaging support. There are platform quality and security updates, of course, performance upgrades, and then upgrades to infrastructure as code as well, which can be used to deploy this. I actually had a 3 slide deck for this, but combined that into just one slide. So when we talk about Mojaloop platform or Mojaloop release, what is it the release of exactly? So the Mojaloop platform is not complete with all of the things here, but the core is as the name indicates, is the core of it. So we have the Mojaloop core inside, which provides the functional support for like the transactional hub components, like for settlements, clearing, lookup, quoting, transaction requests, participant lifecycle management, all the core functionality of Mojaloop. And around that, we have supporting services and connectors for integration with other systems, and for securely connecting with other DFSPs, for example, other participation entities. And apart from that, we also have the finance portal, which includes the experience layer or the user interface layer for hub operations, for hub operators, and technical operations teams for monitoring the health of the system, performance, all those kinds of things. And then all of this is wrapped up within a secure layer or API gateways, which includes a security, IP-based filtering, ingress, egress, support for or security mechanisms such as a JSON web signature, mutual TLS, and those kind of things. So the current gateway that we use is Istio, which suits very well with the architecture that Mojaloop has. And there are infrastructure components as well, like Kubernetes, the infrastructure as code scripts that we use to deploy all of these. So having understood what Mojaloop platform is, this is the Mojaloop core release for version 17. So this includes the base use cases for P2P, request to pay, bulk PISP. But with this release, we now have FX support, interscheme, ISO 20022 messaging support, performance, and then of course the others as well, settlement support with the various models there, and the participant lifecycle management support and third-party payments as well. Without going too much out of my lane here, I also want to give a snapshot of some reports from Migration Data Portal and World Bank blog, which talk about some numbers here. In 2023, apparently, like we had 850 billion US dollars in remittances, and the projected number for 2024 was about 900. And for me, at least, the interesting part of that was the majority, or 2/3 of that was outside of the developed countries. And you could have, there are about 11 goals for G20 in 2021, as they came up with the 20 countries part of that G20. And I picked 4 out of the 11. One of them was around cost, that for cross-border transfers, the goal here is that the average cost should not be more than 3%, and no corridor should have more than 5% of cost for a sample amount of $200. And then about the speed, the goal was that 75% of the transfers should happen within an hour of payment, and the rest within that business day, but not more. And then talking about access, the goal was that it should support scenarios where users or recipients might not have bank accounts. And then transparency. Transparency as in knowing the entirety of the fees at every phase, so that user knows what is being charged where. You could have thought that these are actually Mojaloop principles or level 1 principles, but it's good to see the overlap here. And the reason why I'm bringing up now is because Mojaloop supports FX and of course, ISO 20022 messaging as well. In ISO 20022, Michael shared this for those of you who were in that session earlier. We now see that more and more countries, I read that about 70 countries currently support ISO 20022 messages, and now Mojaloop supports this messaging as well. So with that update, I want to pass on to my fellow community member, Vijay Kumar, who will do a demonstration showing a payment for FX Interscheme and ISO 20022 messaging as well. Vijay has been a key contributor and part of the Mojaloop community. And he's been in the Mojaloop world for a while. He was the initial author of the code base for the Mojaloop testing toolkit. And after that, expanding into the rest of the code base as well. And Vijay, if you're ready, I'll pass on the screen to you.
Thanks, Sam. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Vijay Kumar. I'm working as solution architect for Infitex. So today, I'm going to demonstrate the main 3 features of Mojaloop v17, which are currency conversion, interscheme, and ISO 20022 capability. So this is our demo environment. So we have 3 switches deployed with Mojaloop v17. One for Zambian scheme, and one for Malawian scheme, and one is the regional scheme. So these 3 schemes are connected using the proxies in between. And we have payment managers and for DFSPs. So I'm using 2 DFSP deployments using payment manager, one for payer and one for payee. And also we have one for FXP, foreign exchange provider. So the FXP is connected to regional scheme here. And we have these mobile simulators. I can initiate a transfer using this payer mobile simulator, and we can see the inbound notification in the payee. So apart from these 3, I mean 2 mobile simulators and this FXP simulator, every other component is deployed in a production grade environment with the infrastructure as code, IAC. So all the proxies, payment managers, and this Mojaloop v17 switches. So everything is deployed in production grade quality. So with that, I'm going to show you the transfer, end-to-end transfer. So on the left-hand side, this is Airtel Africa DFSP connected to Zambian scheme. And on the right-hand side, this is National Bank of Malawi DFSP connected to Malawian scheme. And I'm going to make a transfer from this Airtel Africa in Zambian currency. And we're going to receive that in the Malawian currency in the right-hand side, National Bank of Malawi. So in the center, so this console shows us the internal audit messages. I'm going to use this to show you the actual payloads. Payloads are happening in the ISO format. So I will show you the ISO payloads. And then there are finance portals for each scheme. So this is Zambian finance portal, where we can see the positions. I have just reset these positions to 0. Just show you the position changes after making a transfer. So if you observe the position here, so this is 0. This is the obligation of this institution, test ZMW DFSP, which we are going to use as a payer. So this is Zambian scheme. And we have one finance portal for Malawian scheme. And you can see the Malawian test DFSP. So position is 0. And we have one for DRPP, regional scheme. So here we can check the obligations against the international currency accounts. So proxy MWK and ZMW. So these two are international currency accounts, and we can see the position changes here also. So let me make a transfer.
Vijay, sorry for interrupting. Could you zoom in slightly?
Yeah.
Zoom in considerably, please.
Is it better?
Yes, I think that's better.
Okay. Okay, let me make a transfer. So here I'm going to send 10 Zambian kwacha to this number. So discovery happened. So this is saying this number belongs to this user, Chikondi Banda, in a DFSP, which is connected to another scheme, Malawian scheme. So I'm going to accept this party. And then you can see the conversion terms. So for 10 Zambian kwacha, the converted amount is 514 Malawian kwacha. And I accept the conversion. So this is quote, fees 0, and the final amount is 514 Malawian kwacha. I accepted the quote. And here on the right-hand side, we need to see the inbound notification. Yeah, received 514 Malawian kwacha. So transfer happened successfully. Only these, once again, I'm going to emphasize, only these two are the simulators. We are actually connected to the live payment manager and the live Mojaloop deployments. Okay, on the middle, we can see the payloads, ISO payloads. So let me open this one. So this is PAX 009 ISO message. So, you can see the payload here. This is in ISO format. So the settlement model is clearing. And we have a debtor institution, which is payer, and creditor, which is FXP. And the amounts here, 10 Zambian kwacha and 514 Malawian kwacha. Yeah, so this is the PAX 009 message. And let me show you PAX 008, which is this one. And again, the payload is ISO 20022. Settlement model clearing. And we can see the party information here, creator party, creator institution here. debitor party, and debitor institution. And then the final target amount, which is 514 Malawian kwacha. And we have the ILP packet also. So these are the ISO messages. And then I want to emphasize on the signature here, FSPIP signature. So this signature is created by payer using his private key, and it will be validated by payee using the public key of the payer, even if the payer is not in the destination scheme. So that means this is the end-to-end message signed by payer and verified by payee. So let's see the position changes. So I'm going to refresh this page. So here, this is the obligation 10 Zambian kwacha against this DFSP, test ZMW DFSP. And let's see the position change in the DRPP portal. Refresh. So these two are the position changes. Previously, these two were 0, and now 10 Zambian kwacha for this international currency account, and 514 Malawian kwacha for Malawian international account. Yeah, so this is it from me. Any questions? If not, over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank
Let
you.
me share my screen again. So instead of the presentation, I want to briefly thank you, Vijay. That was a fantastic presentation. Anyone feel like applauding that? Thanks again, Vijay. So I'll follow that up with brief look at the Mojaloop version 17 release notes. So we saw the three major features there. We saw that the font is a bit small, but for those of you on Zoom, it's very clear. You can see that these were ISO messages, and we were looking at the effects, the position changes. Fantastic demo. Covers all the aspects which are the major highlights of this release. So this release notes page, version 17. So I can share this link in the Zoom window, but also you can find it offline or elsewhere in other places. There is a summary section at the top here. As you can see, that these are the major points or major topics, features included in this release. We have FX support, ISO 20022 inter-scheme, and then the FSP interoperability API version 2 supported, then some general bug fixes and maintenance. Performance improvements are also included, especially batching in some aspects like error cases, timeouts, and in the fulfill leg in some cases. Then merchant payments enhancements, which are adjacent to Mojaloop, these are also now included in version 17. So there are links here to the actual release item that we used for the team used this issue to track the progress and releases. And you can see here the full list of the release checklist that we have. You can see like all the criteria we have, like quality related, that there are no security issues, no auditing exceptions. And then all the test collections that we have that need to pass for this to happen. Like there's a golden path, the bulk related, ISO, request to pay effects, those kind of things. Then I want to also cover one comment here at the bottom. You can see the test collection results that we have for these successful runs. So we've run all these different tests with the configuration options, and the result collections are uploaded as well. If anyone wants to cross-verify their results with this or check those out, these are there. The next link here I will navigate to is a upgrade strategy guide. There is some theoretical discussion here, which talks about what are the approaches adopters can take for upgrades. But with this release, version 17 release, we also gave a very specific guidance on how we can upgrade from version 16 or 16.04 to version 17. So the Helm commands, for those of you who can see my screen, these are included as well. Apart from that, there is a list of new features, the new feature section, which is an exhaustive list of all the new features that were included. But without going into that in detail, you can see that the top 5 are summarizing the FX and ISO 20022 capability in the various services: central ledger, coding service, account lookup, settlement, and MLAP adapter. And then bug fixes as well. Won't go into that. This section number 3 talks about the application versions that are used in Mojaloop. So the Mojaloop release itself is a bundled release of various different services. You can see all the services that are included here and their individual versions. You can go to the release notes there, look at the changes and the version details that are included there as well. So this section number 4, I want to touch on that a bit more than the others, is it includes the version numbers of the APIs that are used. So we talked about the FSP interoperability API, which facilitates clearing, account lookup, coding, and transaction requests. But we have the 4 other APIs. So right now we have support for version 1.1 and version 2.0, which includes the features we talked about just now. Settlements API version 2.0 is supported, and we have administration, which stands for the participant lifecycle management, version 1.0 of that API. We have an account lookup Oracle related API as well, version 1 of that. And then the third party version 1 support is there as well. Section 5 is the testing notes for adopters. So we have some detailed notes here, but the first part here covers the backend dependencies that Mojaloop uses. It starts with Kubernetes 1.32, which is the latest release that AWS supports. In fact, which is also the latest version out there. Containerd, Ingress, MySQL, the Linux version that we use for our Docker containers in our CI runs, Kafka, Redis, Node.js as well, and we are looking to upgrade that after a recent discussion around that. And this example Mojaloop backend is a bundle of all these backend dependencies, and there is a release for that with the Mojaloop v17 as well. So these testing notes can be used by the adopters QA teams as a starting point, and then build on that and customize that as well. This section number 6 called configuration options is the one that we introduced with this release. Previously, it was there in documentation, but we thought it's very valuable here. And this can help adopters or deployers on what choices they can make based on their requirements and scheme choices, and how to deploy Mojaloop accordingly. So the default of Mojaloop comes with some extensions disabled, but if you need to enable them, for example, if bulk is disabled, how do you enable that? So the environment variable that you need to enable is provided. The test collections you need to run with that are provided as well. Sorry, I think we have some more time. Simeon, let me know where we are with time, but I'll keep track. So if you want to enable inter-scheme or bulk transfers, how do you do that? And what are the test collections that need to be run for that? So all these details are provided in the release notes here. I'll skip that one because we talked about the API changes there. And I want to highlight the known issues. There are no serious known issues, and the mitigations are listed here for some of the issues. Some of them are not reproducible thus far, but they're just in case they happen. And I want to also give credit to the contributor. So we need to realize that this is for the Mojaloop core, and this was automatically generated based on the commits that were made, that were included in this release for the most part. So we have organizations here, BMGF, Code Develop, InfitXM, Mojaloop Foundation, TitsaWorks, who directly or indirectly made contributions to this. And then coming to individuals, Devarsh, Enyon, Eugene, Ivan Korea, Kaelin, Kevin, Stephen, Oderai, Paul Baker, Suchita Prakash, Shashi, Seetu, Tony Williams, and Vijay. I know their GitHub IDs, so I'm reading out the names, but you can see the GitHub IDs here. If you contributed something to Mojaloop that was included in this release, and if you don't see a name here, please reach out. But I also want to thank the individuals, their organizations, but there are some individual contributors here who are not part of other organizations as well. And thank you and kudos to all of you. With that, allow me to go back to my presentation. Stop this and go to my presentation. Okay. So that was the release notes. And usually we have this set of slides that talk about the use cases that Mojaloop supports in various areas. So the FSP interoperability API now supports version 1.1 and version 2 as well. And we can see that the highlighted part here is the foreign exchange and inter-scheme. The others were there from previously as well, payer-initiated, pay-initiated use cases. Most of them we test regularly. Some of them need entities or tooling on the peripheries on the DFSP side, which need further testing, but the rails are there for all these use cases. And then the endpoints, FX codes and FX transfers are the new ones here. Similarly, admin and ALS Oracle for the most part are unchanged, but there's a new endpoint that we want to provide to support FXP choices that is not introduced, but it is in the design phase. So I just listed it here. The endpoint name is services. So it will help list out the FXPs that are available and the corridors they support, things like that. So it is in design phase right now. Settlements, we are looking at enhancements for that and what we call the next generation settlement or V3. But right now we have a V2 support and it also supports FX, but no new functionality as such. On the third party API or 3PPI or PISP, we have a version 1 of the implementation. Version 2 of the API is available, but it's not implemented yet. Hopefully in the coming PIs that will go through implementation as well. So I'll take a detour from there and look at the release process as well, an overview of the release process, and then we'll continue with what we did and the quality side of things. So the Mojaloop release process, it's quite thorough, but I want to cover some of the steps here. At events like this, so Paul's presentation earlier, we talked about the various work streams, how you can raise a request for a new feature. So at the PI planning phase, which happens this week, the next, and the week after, a feature is identified or proposed or a high level topic identified and during the PI planning phase. And then we kind of try to break it down and look at the coordinate with the go-to-market team, whether and adopters, whether that is a need. And after that, after it's been adopted as something we have to do, then it's broken down into smaller things with acceptance criteria. It's refined into items that define the exit criteria, the tests, how can it be tested, and the big topic is then broken down into smaller chunks that can be implemented, taken up by community members, team members to start implementing. And after that, so this is left to the work streams, to be clear, but the planning happens and there are estimates made, milestones, but I want to focus on the next 4 stages. So when we move into the implementation phase, this includes the design, the development, the pull request, merging to main branches, the CI and testing. So the designs are first reviewed at the design authority team, and any API changes are reviewed at the change control board. But the work stream is responsible for making progress and moving this further iteratively. And then once we have features in a decent enough or a ready or a POC shape, we start looking at the release candidate. So Mojaloop version 17 had a release candidate a few weeks earlier, but we were iterating through these phases of setting it up on our environments, dev QA, test environments and staging, and making sure they deploy and going through these phases of deployment and QA and testing. So you can see this whole purple line here, trying to encapsulate this phase where we iterate over a snapshot or a release candidate, find issues with it, see if we can find issues with it. If there are, then go through the phase of fixing, adding features that are given in the meantime. And then during this phase, individual services are again released, published, and those are brought into the deployments. And we still keep testing, going through that release checklist that we saw earlier. When we reach a phase where finally that this green line represents, where we have a passing result on all our test collections, all our release checklist items are ticked off, then we make a release to the community. So that's what happened with version 17 in March. We went through this process and now we have a release. So it's like a treadmill in that we continue this cycle. As v17 is done, now we'll have a candidate for version 17.10 or 18 or 17.01 based on the changes that are coming in. But we look at the potential changes that will come, but this is the overall process. We can see this is just a snapshot. I don't want to focus on too much, but we had these 4 releases in the past, version 15, 15.10, 15.2, and then 16. with updates progressively happening. And this is the more recent one. Version 16 was the latest, was the stable release until we made version 17. Version 16 is still working very well. In fact, when we deployed it as part of upgrade testing for version 17, it deployed fine and all the tests passed. And we were able to also test the upgrade scenario from version 16 or 16.04 to version 17. So you can see the features listed here. I don't want to repeat them, but I want to touch on what comes next year, looking at this pipeline. So we're looking at settlements improvements. Paul touched on some of these as well. And you can see Tiger Beetle integration to Mojaloop Core is a candidate. Want to do an upgrade on the Node.js version. Most of the other things we are very much in line or at the head of the releases, but that needs an improvement and work in the coming month and quarter. And then PISP has a version 2 and talked about implementation that's needed for that. Bulk support in PISP and some other enhancements like integration closely with downstream components and some minor enhancements to notifications as well. So that's where we are now. We saw the release notes and we're continuing with some of the things we talked about. Also, your feedback in the meetings we had so far about documentation improvements is noted. And we also have several tasks and items there in our backlog, which are attempting to deal with that, especially on the deployment side and related to the product features as well. Paul has done a lot of work on that. And the work on deployment tooling related documentation is a work in progress. So this is for those of you who want to see how rigorous or what are the various checks that happen for Mojaloop contributions or what goes into Mojaloop and how are they vetted before they include into main branches and releases. Here is a snapshot that I just took earlier this morning for a quoting service pipeline. So I usually take Central Ledger because that's representative of what we do, but Paul always complains like, why do you always take Central Ledger? So I took coding service and I don't want to go through everything here, but you can see there are about 14, 15 steps here. Some of the other services have about 20 steps. And there are two things I want to highlight here. We have the traditional steps such as unit, functional, integration tests, and we have the very critical tests for license scanning and coverage testing and license auditing. But you can also see these two new checks that we introduced in the last PI. So we have a deprecation step that checks for deprecation. So Louis, your question related to that. In fact, the work that we did in the last PI, the culmination was that we now know, we have knowledge of what's happening. In fact, I was sharing this earlier, it came out of a conversation with Miller where Node.js themselves were doing an audit and software bill of materials for their platform. And we got inspired by that and wanted to do this. And now we know what's happening because this tool now looks at the nested dependencies up to like 14 to 20 levels down as well. Like dependency 1, 2, 3, 4, which are depending on other libraries, their licenses. The licenses are not very difficult the license problem is not very difficult to solve because we already have a license scanner. But the problem was more about their maintenance status and their patching status and how well they're maintained or they're deprecated. And that's what we're trying to tackle now, where some of the libraries that are like 10 levels down use a deprecated dependency. So how do we address that? So we have a check now for that. And yeah, because of the time, I'm not going into too much detail, but we have image scanning previously using an Anchor CLI engine, which is a very good tool for that. But recently it got outdated. So we evaluated two other tools, Trivia and Gripe. And currently we are using Gripe and it's looking good so far. It's obviously it not just identifies issues in our code base, but also the Node.js environment or runtime that we use and also the operating system on which the actual container runs as well. In addition to all those 14 to 20 steps we looked at, we have several other mechanisms for quality and security as well. So we have Sonar Cloud, which is fantastic. It does a static scan of all the code that's contributed in pull requests in the repositories and gives us rating and also vulnerabilities and issues that it finds. And we use GitHub tools as well, CodeQL, Dependabots, Copilot secret scans that look for secrets or passwords, things like that. Recently, we addressed some of that. And a big part of securing our contributions is through peer reviews, pull request reviews by subject matter experts and peers. Coverage standards, end-to-end tests, and the release checklist, of course, to catch things that fall out of that. I'll skip this slide. We're also looking at the provenance of Mojaloop artifacts. So Helm charts, Docker images, we implemented this for Helm charts where the user that publishes our Helm charts is able to sign them. And during deploy time, these can be verified so that we ensure that end-to-end security as well. This was an item that was pending for some time. And we've done a POC and we've shown that it works. And it'll come with the next release. We didn't want to have it with v17 because it's been long awaited and we didn't want the downstream tooling to change too much. So it's coming with the next one. Heads up. Software bill of materials is now part of the central orb that we use or the central package that we use for all Mojaloop services. And we've also improved the performance. It used to take about 7 minutes. Now it takes like 1 minute or less than 1 minute. On the quality side, this is the roadmap we have. We want to look at OpenSSF self-evaluation. So we started that activity as a bonus goal in PI 26. We're going to finish that soon in the next PI. We want to support the auditing capability. So one of our implementers, especially as it relates to Infotech and DRPP, proposed in the design authority about auditing. And from the pre-QS workstream, platform quality and security, we want to support that effort and continue with some of the work that we've been doing as well. On the release side of things, not on the features, but we want to look at a release cadence moving forward for Mojaloop releases. So right now, it's been based on the delivery of features and requests by adopters, but we want to have a more predictable timelines. So the initial part of the next PI, I'm going to make a proposal to the DA and work through that and come up with a more predictable life cycle for Mojaloop releases. And we're also looking to performance profile or Mojaloop releases. So with version 17, this is the performance we have with this resource footprint. So we want to generate those kind of reports with our Mojaloop releases. And we want to have closer integration with downstream tooling. So we have finance portal, infrastructure as code, and test cases. We want to integrate that more closer so that it's easy for people who want to take bits and pieces and customize their deployments more easier. And documentation, of course, perennially. With that, I'll stop. If Simeon allows, we'll take questions. But if not, thanks everyone for listening. And thanks to the contributors.